Okay, so once again, welcome to the latest Meraki Quarterly, episode 7. I can't believe this is the 7th quarterly that we've run now. Always a very exciting session, which we love sharing with you. And on the screen here, we have a little stealth image. I expect most of you know what's underneath this material, but we're certainly going to make sure you know it in the next few minutes. And so we are ready to roll. Let's have a look at a little bit of a prelude, and then we'll get straight into the detail. So this is a little bit of a reminder, really. The Meraki Quarterly is a really different kind of a webinar from the ones we normally run. It's really targeted at established Meraki customers, partners, and of course our colleagues here at Meraki and Cisco. It gives us an opportunity to get the product teams in front of you. Now, these are very difficult people to assemble into one room. I would experience this for yourself. It is very much like herding cats, but we have once again achieved it. We have everybody in the room here. And so the concept here is that we're going to take a retrospective look back over the last quarter, looking at some of the technologies that we've introduced, some exciting developments from Meraki. And we think this is a really nice way of just making sure that you're fully up to date with what we do here. I would like to stress that, as always with Meraki, this is a roadmap-free zone, and so you can please go ahead and ask as many questions as you like. However, we will reserve the right to completely ignore questions relating to forward-looking futures from Meraki. There is always stuff coming, and we'll be very excited to share those things with you as soon as we possibly can. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my trusty colleague, Paul, who is going to take us through an update on Meraki MC. Very exciting, brand new product launch we did just about 6 weeks ago, and this is really what was right underneath that piece of material. Take it away, Paul.
Hey everyone, my name's Paul Kramer. I'm one of the product specialists for the MC product that we launched on May 17. It's been an incredibly exciting time to come aboard and really work on such an exciting product. So as I mentioned, we launched on May 17. Yeah, the excitement's been fantastic. All the feedback we've been receiving from customers so far has been extremely positive. It's driven a lot of inspiration within the product, engineering and support teams. So we'd like to suggest to keep those wishes coming. We're definitely monitoring those on a daily basis, and they're really driving our feature development. As you've seen with many of our other product families, there is precedent there for fast feature velocity and iteration of features. So many of you have probably already come across the phone. The hardware is a beautiful piece of hardware. There's a lot of real estate on there with the 7-inch LCD screen, a minimum amount of hardware buttons, and the handset itself does feel very solid in the hand. We're very happy with the way it looks. The Meraki MC is a cloud-managed phone via dashboard, via the single pane of glass that you can actually manage the rest of your Meraki infrastructure with. And it really marks our first foray into cloud-managed end-user devices. It's really the first time that we've had a device that we've both designed the software and the hardware for in front of users. And that's one of the key points that we like to point out. We've actually built this phone from the ground up in terms of software and hardware. So the software and hardware ecosystems have been built hand in hand. And we really think the user experience is one of the best out there for a managed business phone. Like all Meraki products, the goal is to simplify complexity and make managing and deploying the phones as easy as drop shipping the devices. So we really like to sell the fact that it is a zero-touch installation, and it really empowers lean IT departments in the voice department, where previously they may have had to employ MSPs to make complex dial plan changes on their on-premise PBX. So it really is empowering small IT shops. In terms of new developments since launch, we launched with an IntelliPeer plan, which included unlimited calling to all 50 US states plus Canada. That plan included a DID, which enabled inbound calling as well. IntelliPeer have actually released new plans since that original plan was released along with the phone. So that was within the last couple of weeks. So that allows administrators to purchase what's called an extension-only call package, where if the administrator is not wanting every phone in the organization to receive inbound calls, they can purchase an extension-only call package to enable outbound calling for particular phones. It can also be useful if there is an IVR at the head end of the company receiving all inbound calls and concurrent calls are arriving at that IVR. So that's been a really cool development for us, being able to offer that type of system to our customers. A lot of our customers have come from on-premise PBX systems, which include pools of trunks, and we believe that this calling package, this extension-based calling package, will offer that similar experience. We've also released voicemail to email in the last week or so, actually, which can be configured via the web portal. So that's really filling a hole for a lot of our customers when they're off-site and needing to check their emails. So that's a feature that we're very proud of, and an example of fast feature iteration between where we are now and launch only about a month ago. What we've also included is the fact that phones can be included in combined networks now. So it really completes the single pane of glass where you can actually manage your whole IT infrastructure through that single pane of glass. So we're very excited about that as well. I'm going to do a quick demonstration of that functionality and really show off the fact that you can manage your whole topology via dashboard. And we've also managed to add phones to the network topology, which gives a really concise view of the whole network infrastructure, the whole Meraki feature base, basically. So without further ado, I think I'll jump into Chrome and we'll do a quick demo of what we've managed to release. Cool. Okay, so topology first. So via network-wide and topology, you'll see some pretty new icons shaped like phones. There we go. So this is our internal topology in our San Francisco headquarters. And you can see that security appliances, switches, access points, and phones are now represented by icons in the topology map, which is very cool and something that our customers are very excited about. Continuing on, I'll go through a few of the highlights of the phone, given it is such a new product. So we'll just go to the phones page, and this is your main configuration portal for all things phone, basically. So this is a network containing all our internal conference phones. If I click on one of these phones, I can see what's actually possible via the dashboard configuration for the phone. Okay, so this is actually read-only. If I was a full administrator, I'd be able to change this contact, change the public number, extension number, things like call duration, and custom caller ID as well. Some useful tools, ping root device. You can take a screenshot of what's currently on the phone, and you can reset the passcode that's now been moved to the voicemail application of the phone, where before the passcode actually protected the whole phone. So that's another change that we've implemented within the last month. Moving on to some other features, something you may not be aware of is the fact that we actually support Google Directory integration via Google for Work APIs. So if you're using a Google directory, you can actually integrate your Google directory to the Cisco phone directory and assign phone numbers to those users. That can be very useful for the importation of bulk users in a directory. The thing that we're most proud of with the product, probably, and the thing that's changed the landscape in our minds is the phone numbers page, and the fact that you can actually purchase phone numbers and PSTN services via dashboard. You never actually need to leave dashboard to make this happen. I come from a PBX integration background where I've installed numerous on-site PBXs, and I can say from experience, what you can achieve in dashboard by purchasing numbers will usually take upwards of a month to 2 months to purchase those numbers and SIP trunks. So the fact that it is a zero-touch installation where you can configure your trunks and phone numbers within dashboard without leaving dashboard is a massive boon for us and a massive plus for our users, and something that has been incredibly well received. Now, the new call packages aren't available via this page yet. There are some very helpful KB articles available at documentation.meraki.com which explain how to actually purchase those new call plans manually via IntelliPeer. So feel free to jump on the KB to be able to help purchase those new numbers and plans. In terms of other features, one of the main ones, IVR menus. So basically what you'd be able to do is configure an automated attendant to actually pick up the call and play a greeting, basically prompting the caller to press a button for a particular option. You can then transfer that digit to a phone, a conference room. There are some other options in here as well, sub-menus, etc., or play another recording. So this is an incredibly helpful feature for a lot of our customers and really helps replace features that were implemented on older on-premise PBX systems. In terms of the demo, I think that about covers everything. I'm not sure whether, Simon, you want to take over from here?
Yeah, sure. Cool. Thank you very much, everyone, as well.
All right, thanks, Paul. I mean, just a hugely exciting new product line from Meraki. You can see, I think other people were looking at me slightly strangely in the office, I'll have to admit. Look on the left-hand side, and you can now see phones sitting there alongside wireless, alongside switching, alongside systems manager. This full stack just keeps on growing, so we're just really excited about this new development. So what I'm going to do now is hand over to next presenter, and that person is, well, those people, I should say. We have a quorum here. These two guys, they've buddied up for this next section, and they're going to take us through an update on the brand new products in the switching and wireless lines. Take it away, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Simon. Good morning.
Should we kind of snuggle up to each other here so we're close to the microphone?
We'll see if we can send a picture of this so you guys can see how cozy it is in here.
That's right. Well, welcome everyone to a nice last quarter review with MS and MR, and it has been a very exciting last few months.
Exciting indeed.
And why is that? Because of exponential graphs.
Look at this graph.
I love them. I love them. So the story here is mobile's kind of important. Mobile data is kind of important. This is an inexorable trend of tablets, smartphones, PCs, all getting on the internet. And this is just a massively growing set of data that's being consumed while folks are on the go. This is no joke. So 50 exabytes is where we're heading. Do you even know?
I have no clue
what that means.
I was worried you were going to ask me.
Well,
it's a lot of zeros.
I didn't know either. So I looked it up a bit, did some calculations, and figured out that we're heading towards a future, and say by 2021, where every person on the internet streams the entire 10 seasons of Friends.
What?
Yes, in 2021, people will still be watching Friends. I know I will, and I'm going to be streaming all 10 of it per month. It's exciting, right?
Nice.
Out of bed, now it's on Netflix, we are set. And that's where the internet's going, and we need, most importantly, to plan for it. So, before Tony explains this virtuous cycle, I want to talk about roadmap.
Oh, really?
That's right. Simon talked about no roadmap, but it's not because we don't know where we're going. It's because we do know where we're going, and we want it to be a surprise for you. But we will share with you some of the trends that we like to keep in mind as we plan our new products, as we plan our new feature development, as we plan our daily activities.
Yeah, and so like Matt said, I think it's obvious where we're going, but the reality is that everyone, and this is really true for businesses, for users globally, is that users want to mobilize. They want to have access to everything right now, from the device in their pocket, from the device strapped to their wrist, from the computer in their bag. And so user mobility is driving what we call the virtuous cycle. It's a vicious cycle, but it's also virtuous. And what does that mean? Well, going back to that massive amount of data consumption, it drives data usage, because as soon as you have that kind of usability in your pocket, you're going to go ahead and use it, right? You're going to make queries, you're going to ask questions, you're going to Google this and that. What does that mean? You need to increase network capacity. This is something that the cellular infrastructure is just constantly being forced to do, but so are network administrators, so are IT organizations, and this is great for a company like Cisco. And then ultimately, it means we need to provide next generation wireless. And this really plays nicely into some of the product releases we've had here in the last couple of months. It is really just kind of that next gen that the IEEE consortium is working on.
So let me talk a little bit about what 802.11ac Wave 2 means, because it's extremely relevant to this growth in mobility. There are two key features that were introduced with Wave 2, and both of these are firmly focused on making mobility better with 11AC networks. That first feature is something called MU-MIMO, multi-user MIMO. And the idea behind multi-user MIMO is that you can use these access points with all these spatial streams with lots of data, and you can share those streams with multiple client devices. Instead of having to speak with one device at a time, especially if it's a phone and the phone can only communicate with one spatial stream, you'd be wasting all that excess capacity. But with MU-MIMO, you can share spatial streams, you can increase the efficiency of your network. The more streams you have, then the more devices you can communicate with at one time. Wave 2 has another very interesting enhancement, and that's wider channels, 160 megahertz channels. So 11AC Wave 1 brought us up to 80 megahertz, and now Wave 2 brings us up to 160 megahertz. Now we can debate some environments where you could use 160 megahertz, because that's a whole lot of spectrum. But the key innovation there is that it speeds up the rate at which data is transferred, which means that devices can get on and off the air faster. And the faster device gets off the air, the faster other device can get on the air. So these two innovations together are both speaking towards increasing the efficiency of a wireless network. And that's why we introduced the MR52 device. This came out at the beginning of May. This is extremely well received. This is a beautiful product. It's a 4 spatial stream 4x4 Wave 2 device. It supports those 160 megahertz channels. It supports up to 4 simultaneous multi-user MIMO clients. And it leverages the quad radio architecture that we've built into our access points that we've been evolving over time. So of course we have our 2.4 gigahertz and our 5 gigahertz client serving radios. As with all Meraki APs, we have our third radio that serves RF scanning, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention capabilities. And then we also have a Bluetooth low energy radio in there for creating some interesting new location-based engagement opportunities. Because this is such a monster of an AP, we had to introduce dual gigabit Ethernet interfaces. There's a lot more data capacity that can come onto these types of networks by sharing all these spatial streams with multiple clients. And so we need dual gigabit in order to get all that data out of the AP.
So Matt, with all that horsepower under the hood, does it still work on PoE, PoE Plus?
Well, PoE Plus is what you want for the premium experience. If you want all 4 of those radios on and running with full data rates, I'd go with PoE Plus. But that's okay because PoE Plus has been on the market for many, many years now. If you only have PoE, the AP will make some intelligent choices and sort of throttling things back, but PoE Plus is where you want to be.
Well, and we've got a product for you, so.
I can't wait to hear more. And then very quickly, as everybody probably knows, this device was launched in May with a $13.99 list price.
Now, onto the very, very exciting, very, very brand new technology, many refer to as multi-gigabit. So a lot of us understand fundamentally what this is all about, but it is important for us to kind of touch on this in that Matt just introduced the MR52. It's an incredible access point. It does have 4 radios under the hood, and it's really capable of truly north of 1 gigabit speeds. But that produces a problem for IT, which is that most cable plants in buildings are standard Cat 5, Cat 5e, Cat 6, Cat 6a, right? And historically, that has been really just designed for 1 gigabit Ethernet. Most environments have a single cable run per access point. I think, you know, this building here is probably one of the few that actually has 2 cable runs per access point, and that's really because we're a networking vendor and we knew we'd want to probably test things out. So this again, it poses a problem, and that's where multi-gigabit comes in.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, by putting 2 gigabit ports on my AP, that doesn't make it multi-gigabit?
No, it absolutely makes, and that is a really key distinction here. Really, the reality is the MR52 is just as much a multi-gigabit product, but you're using 2 cables to achieve it, and you're actually doing link aggregation. The kind of more beautiful approach to this is kind of what you're seeing here, which is single cable run. You know, and on the right here we've got, you know, our switch stack, and by enabling something called multi-gigabit, we really drive beyond the speed of 1 gigabit using a single cable.
Aha, so that's where the MR53 comes in. So rather than featuring the 2 1 gigabit ports, we've actually introduced a new type of Ethernet technology We call it multi-gigabit unofficially. There's an IEEE standard, 802.3BZ associated with this. There's an industry consortium, the NBASE-T Alliance. And this is basically a new PHY technology that can run at multiple different gigabit speeds that will automatically adjust based on cable conditions and based on the chipsets and either the client or the access switch. And so the MR53 is sort of the big brother to the MR52. It has the same radio capabilities, the same 4x4, 4 spatial stream capacity, but instead of the dual 1 gig ports, it has a multi-gigabit port, which will be your primary single uplink to your access switching. Just like the 52, this operates with PoE plus power, does not need to exceed that power envelope, and we launched this alongside the MR52 for a $16.99 list.
Very cool. So going back to that virtuous cycle, or vicious if you're in IT, you know, really if you're looking to upgrade your network infrastructure, it's a very exciting time to do so. We've got these fantastic, really high-end products, but you can't make use of that multi-gigabit single port on the AP without a good friend on the other end. So we're introducing the MS350 Edition. So this is an additional product that slots right into the MS350 family. Works perfectly with the rest of the models. And of course, the MS350 24X and the 53 are a match made in heaven. And this is because of that multi-gigabit interface on both products. The 24X has a total of 8 multi-gigabit interfaces. The cool part about this is that this is a tremendously high horsepower switch because it actually has 8 ports that are capable of up to 10 gigabits per second, depending on the cable choice and depending on the proximity to the device on the other end. Now the 53 doesn't ever need anything beyond 2.5 gigs, and that's why that interface does 2.5. But this is multi-gigabit in that it does 1, 2.5, 5, and 10 on its multi-gig interfaces. It's also capable of UPoE across all interfaces, so this is also another newer technology. This is really, again, future-proofing this product for the evolution of higher-powered endpoints in mobile devices. So what does that mean? It means that with an MS350 24X and an MR53 and a single cable run, you are rocking at 2.5 gigs per second on that cable. Really cool.
That's awesome.
Now, it wouldn't really make sense if we weren't to complete the story upstream. So a lot of you are thinking, okay, well, great. If I sling a bunch of 2.5 gig APs out there, let people stream their friends' episodes. What happens upstream? How do I handle that capacity upstream? So we introduced a next generation 10 gigabit fiber aggregation switch in addition to these products. Really completes the story when it comes to the distribution layer of your network because this product comes with 2 40 gig QSFP plus interfaces. This lets you uplink them. You can do link aggregation. You can stack these products together to have high availability, high uptime, high redundancy, gateway redundancy, the works. So this really makes for a very nice, very highly resilient network infrastructure. Couples beautifully with the MS350 family. You can see the price points there. Another thing you'll notice, and I'll touch on this quickly, is we decided to make a change to our port densities. You may remember the MS420. We still have that product. It comes in a 2448 port flavor. Now, we've found and learned over time from metadata throughout our dashboard, from customer feedback, partner feedback, that this kind of 1632 is the absolute sweet spot. So that's a change that we made in terms of our design methodology.
Which I guess really brings us to what I find the most intriguing part of introducing new products like this. The beauty of Meraki MultiProject Integration, whether we're talking about using, configuring, managing those devices in dashboard, or the fact that you have a centrally cloud-managed infrastructure that doesn't need any on-premise equipment or controllers. It doesn't require painful firmware upgrades. It ensures interoperability with multiple devices. So if you're expanding your wireless network, maybe high-density areas where you're interested in Wave 2 with these 4 spatial stream devices, you have a high density of mobile users, you can add Wave 2 APs, you can add MR53s in areas that will benefit from it without having to do a forklift refresh. Or you could do a forklift. I love it when people do that, but hey, you could decide to do the whole network. That's fine too. Either way, the management process is seamless. You just pull in your APs to your network, plug them in, they self-configure. Similarly on the switch side?
Yeah, slot it right into your existing stack of switches. and bring up multi-gigabit in your network within a couple of minutes.
So
really,
I can
really
have
cool.
a bunch of 50s, maybe some 24-port 1 gigs, and then throw in multi-gig to support my new high-density area.
That's right. You got it.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
On the slide.
So just to close this out, this is really, these products in tandem are designed for really kind of high bandwidth demanding customers, high bandwidth demanding users. Great example is kind of next generation classrooms, next generation office environments, and really those looking to future-proof their network investments for the next 5 to 7 years. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to a dear friend of mine, Joe, who's going to give you an update on the MX. We'd like to both thank you for your time. It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. Well, you can all be grateful that you don't have to work with those guys. Unfortunately, I'm not quite as fortunate. They're giving me dirty looks.
The video's not on right now.
Yeah. So anyway, as mentioned, my name's Joe, and I want to give you all a quick update on what's happening with the MX Security Appliance. So hopefully you've all seen some form of this slide. This is, well, the resolution's causing it to come across a little wonky, but it's basically our one slide indicator of everything that happens with the MX, every feature that's included kind of in the basic functionality of the MX. The reason I show this is I want to highlight the fact that we really have a couple different channels, a couple different types of features in the MX. We group all of our MX features into really two major areas, security and connectivity. And I want to talk a little bit about what's new on each of those fronts today. So some of you have been probably keeping track of some of the new stuff we've been messaging recently around AMP and our SD-WAN solution, the iWAN capabilities that we built into this product. Got some exciting news on those fronts that I want to share with you. We have a new GA that's going to be coming out, new GA firmware coming out for the MX. We've actually released iWAN, the SD-WAN components, as fully generally available, no longer in beta as of yesterday, and AMP will be coming to GA within the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that. We'll have some updates for you coming, especially next week at Cisco Live, but some really exciting changes there around the security efficacy and the connectivity capabilities of the platforms. And we're going to start diving a little bit deeper into the next kind of revision of these features with some of the things we'll have coming in the new fiscal year. So keep an eye out for that. A few other things that are happening on the MX as we go forward. With this GA, you also get the Security Center, which is our new security monitoring UI that integrates together all of the threat intelligence data that we have for all of your networks and allows you to pivot through that data by client, by source of threat, by the specific threat, by network, all these different options to give you contextual visibility into what's happening on the network from a threat management and threat containment perspective. Also on the security side, we have 802.1x port authentication, both on the 64 and 65 and the associated wireless models, if you're not aware of that. And we've added StealthWatch support. So you can actually use NetFlow on the MX to export your traffic flows to StealthWatch, which is another Cisco security product, to allow you to get some really interesting behavioral analysis of your network, sort of anomaly detection material for your network that's really interesting in helping to identify, are people doing things that deviate from the norm for your network? Is someone downloading a file from a place that nobody in your network has ever downloaded a file from before? Are people communicating heavily all of a sudden with areas on the internet that are not normal for your business network? So things like that can be indicators that something may be going on either from a malware or intrusion prevention perspective. So a really cool new capability. There will also be more information coming out about StealthWatch at Cisco Live, so you can tune in to learn more. There's also, of course, with any new firmware, a variety of security patches and fixes and all that good stuff. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about why that's important in just a second. On the connectivity side, like I said, we're very excited to say that the iWAN, SD-WAN features are now officially available to everyone. They are no longer in beta. You can actually go in and upgrade your network to this today. This new version that includes the SD-WAN capabilities does not yet include AMP, but it will very soon, and we'll let you know when that happens as well. Also have some cool performance improvements on the VPN. So you will, if you're upgrading to this new firmware, see significantly improved VPN performance on many of our platforms when using AutoVPN. And finally, also on that kind of SD-WAN front, we're now encapsulating those VPN packets and putting any DSCP tags that you have on that traffic on the encapsulated packet. And this is really, really crucial for IWAN customers. So what this means is when you send traffic over the VPN, over AutoVPN, right, especially in an IWAN deployment, when we encapsulate that traffic, if it's got a quality of service header on it, a DSCP tag on it saying that it should be prioritized or deprioritized, we'll actually repackage that same tag onto the encapsulated VPN traffic so that if you're sending VPN traffic over your MPLS, for instance, you'll actually be able to respect that same quality of service even though it's encapsulated encrypted traffic. So with all of that, I want to highlight something that's kind of interesting to me about the software update landscape. Some of you, in fact, most of you are probably familiar with a screenshot much like this one. This is a screenshot of a Cisco device in command line, and the part I want to highlight is that uptime, over 14 years of uptime. And there are two major things that should pop into your mind when you see that. One is that's a phenomenal uptime, right? That thing's been online forever. That's great. But the second that hopefully pops to mind is nobody's updated the software on this stupid device in 14 years. And that's a little bit terrifying. So with this new GA, I just want to take this opportunity to kind of touch on that a little bit and touch on how the Meraki solutions help you to avoid those kind of scenarios. In the 2016 annual security report that Cisco produced, we looked at over 115,000 Cisco devices, and we learned that over 92%, or just north of 92% of them, were running known vulnerabilities, software that had vulnerabilities that we've fixed, right? And this is global. This is Cisco-wide across a bunch of different product lines. So these are vulnerabilities that you could be protected against if you just updated your firmware, right? If you got the newest, latest, greatest software on those devices. And so it's more important than ever with how quickly the threat landscape and the network landscape are evolving and how much new stuff is coming all the time. It's more important than ever to make sure that your security especially is up to date, right? And that's one of the benefits of the cloud managed model that we have with the Cisco Meraki products. And it's especially, to me at least, important to the MX because it is a security device. I may be a little biased there. It is my product. I'm not exactly an objective source. But I think it's really important, especially for security, that those products be kept up to date. So with this cloud managed model, as we go into the coming weeks and as we get the AMP GA coming out on the heels of the IWAN GA, you'll start to see those bulk upgrades that those of you who are existing Meraki deployment owners or MSPs, et cetera, are familiar with, coming out to bring those new security features and the associated security patches and vulnerability fixes and other things out to our user base without any action being needed by them, right, other than telling us when you want those updates to occur. So with that, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I want to finish up with a quick call to action. If you are interested in knowing what's latest and greatest, keeping up with what's latest and greatest on the MX, as we go through this cycle and we get the IWAN and AMP GAs out there, there's going to be new stuff coming, of course. As Simon mentioned, we're not going to dive into what that new stuff is today. But if you want to be kind of on the cutting edge in a lab environment, in a home lab network, or in a network that you think, it's reasonable to have a beta firmware in, you can always go into dashboard, and under the general settings, you can turn on try beta firmware. Now, these are tested firmwares. We have a whole suite of rigorous tests that they go through here in-house before they ever go out to the beta pool. But it is a great way to keep current on what's new and what's coming and some of the cool stuff that we're going to be releasing over the coming months. We're especially right now looking for larger beta sites, 2 to 5 gigabit per second beta sites, because of some performance and throughput improvements that we are working on for the MX400 and 600. So if you have anything that might be good for that, please reach out to your channel rep and see what they have to say. Talk to them a little, see if it might be a good fit, because there's some really cool stuff coming down the pipe, and we want to make sure that everyone who wants to get a look at that gets that look. Finally, I want to highlight something that we started doing just recently, back in April, that you can kind of leverage to get your customers interested in Meraki security if you want to bring them down that path. The free webinar, free gear webinars that we've been doing, of course, for years. All of you, I'm sure, know we've been doing the access points for quite some time. We started doing the switches about a year ago now, I suppose, maybe not quite that long. It's hard for me to keep track. We're now also doing that for MXs. So for certain qualified webinars, folks who attend the Intro to MX webinar, the most common one, are going to get a free MX, and it's an MX64 with an advanced security license, 3-year license, same kind of deal as the switches and the APs, and it's a great way to get folks kind of engaged in that Meraki security story, get them to try some of these features and see for themselves how powerful this can be. So if you have customers who are interested or who you think would benefit from the Meraki security portfolio and you want to kind of push them over the edge, this is a great way to do that. So keep that in mind. And with that, I am actually going to hand it back to Simon for a moment. Oh, no, I lied. I'm going to hand it over to Vic from our Systems Manager EMM team, and he's going to tell you all about the cool and exciting new endpoint stuff that we've got going on.
Hey everybody, my name's Vic. I'm the product specialist for Systems Manager, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what Systems Manager has been up to for the past quarter or so. So kind of one of the big themes that you'll see for me talking for the next couple minutes is going to be the Cisco-Apple partnership. At WWDC this year, Apple kind of touched a little bit on what they've been working with Cisco on the wireless front as well as the EMM front, in terms of streamlining Apple devices and making them more enterprise ready and focused for enterprise deployments and needs as opposed to just everyday consumer needs. And we've really kind of seen that as we've developed across the features that we've built in the past couple quarters. So starting with things that we worked for Windows Phone support to now all the way to iOS 9 support, we've kind of even pushed it up to iOS 10 and the new features that come with it. And that's kind of some of the great things that's come from the Systems Manager team, especially when it comes to taking features and pushing them kind of forward very quickly and having them released out to the public. And so one of the big things that we did, of course, was this device assignment via VPP, and this kind of allowed you in iOS 9 to kind of circumvent the necessity to have Apple IDs added to your VPP account and kind of the headache that was managing that, and allowed you to kind of applications straight to devices. And now we've seen over 100,000, I think we're almost hitting 4, app installs that are purely based on device assignment. So it's kind of alleviated a lot of pain points that came from setting up an Apple-centric EMM deployment. Now with 9.3, we've kind of taken Apple's push of education and really streamlined it for the Meraki process. So whether it is kind of preparing your switching or your wireless network for mobility, we've also focused on the mobility side for schools and classrooms. And that's really by integrating with the education portfolio that Apple had released in 9.3. So this means that teachers are now kind of more in control. They have a really easy, simple to use application so that when they're trying to control their students' devices, whether it's looking into their screens or locking them into particular applications, they have the ability to do so very simply from another iPad. And the idea behind this is kind of with working with Apple, we've been able to streamline this process and really kind of give both the end users as well as the IT administrators the best experience, where it's not too much of a headache to maintain and similarly not too large of a headache to use. And kind of when we pair Systems Manager with the rest of the network stack, and this is something unique to Meraki in that no other EMM solution really has this ability, since we are one of the very few, or the only one actually, that builds both the EMM as well as the network backend. We kind of have full end-to-end visibility of your network, what's happening on your network all the way down to what's happening on the endpoints that connect to your network. And having that is actually incredibly powerful and allows for a lot when it comes to kind of applying that in terms of what we can do to your network and to your devices, whether it's for security purposes or ease of use purposes. And that really boils down into what we call Systems Manager Sentry. So whenever you hear the phrase Sentry, that's kind of our catchphrase to say that we're doing something with the networking stack. And there are a couple of really cool things that we do on the Sentry front that we've kind of optimized this past quarter. The kind of first big thing that we have is really to make sure that as more and more devices come online, we can make very clear pairings from endpoints to networks. So that means as your BYOD devices come online, they're being placed on the correct VLAN. When student devices are coming online, they're getting hit with the right content filter restrictions, whatever the use case may be. And as always, you should always look out for more, especially in the next coming quarter. If you check us out at Cisco Live, you'll hear all about the iOS 10 optimization that we'll kind of be building into both the MR platforms as well as the iOS platform via Systems Manager. So for iOS 10 and everything like that, we're kind of focusing on how to best streamline the Apple experience for our end users as well, especially in the enterprise use case. So it looks like there are a couple questions about education in 9.3. So if you actually check out the Meraki blog, we have a lot of information about kind of what we've been doing to work on the education payload and how to kind of bring education to our customers. And you can also check out our documentation portal, documentation.meraki.com, if you've kind of already got an idea and you want to dig into the nitty-gritty and really figure out how to set things up, what payloads to choose, what information to enter, how to integrate with Apple School Manager, you name it. So all that information is kind of out there and readily available for you, so I would definitely recommend checking out the blog as well as looking up documentation to get a little bit more kind of into the education space. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic back to Simon and let him take it from here.
All right, thanks, Vic. We've certainly been through quite a lot of material in a very short space of time, so thank you very much for all the presentations from the team. Like I said, a bit of a challenge getting all these guys together in the room, so I'm really happy we've been able to do this again for you this time around. We have had quite a lot of questions come in, and despite my optimistic request for no questions about roadmap, about 90% of the questions do seem to be about roadmap. So, you know, there are very few of these that we can actually address. Obviously, in all cases, we're always looking at new capabilities, and when we start to see patterns emerging, requests for certain types of features, we've seen some of this come in with some of the MC questions that have come in. You know, these are the kind of things that we're looking for, because these are going to help to drive the prioritization of our engineers as they develop more features for the phone. Just in the last 6 weeks, since the launch of the phone, we've already introduced the first round of additional features to the device, and you're going to start to discover those very soon if you're already using Meraki MC. So for example, we now have voicemail to email capability built in there. We now have voice VLAN functionality supported on the phone as well, so that we can operate both a voice and data VLAN through the same physical cable from the switch. So, you know, these kind of things are being built on all of the time, and our approach at Meraki always is to try to innovate these things rapidly and get them out to you as quickly as we can. So the blog really is the best way to keep in touch with all of these. I'm actually going to be putting up a blog post later on today covering a couple of the updates that we've added to Meraki MC, and it is the mouthpiece that we use for announcing new technology. So let me have a quick look through some of the questions that have come in. I'll just see if there are a couple of good ones I can share with you all, and then we'll start to wrap things up. So we shouldn't keep you for too much longer. Yeah, so there was a question here about whether there's any requirements to run a separate cable for a phone and PC. So this was really what I was highlighting just a moment ago. We have this pass-through port on the back of the phone, which is able to support a full gig. It's a gigabit switch on the back of there, and we can support both a voice and data VLAN on there. So no need for additional cable runs, which of course is very important. Another question related to the phone was around quality of service, both on the local area network and the wide area network. So quality of service, of course, fundamental to getting voice over IP right. We can throw as much bandwidth as we like at voice over IP, but it is a demanding application. It does require priority on the network. And so no matter how much bandwidth you have, if that bandwidth is congested, you're going to run into problems with those real-time applications. So we always recommend quality of service configuration, and there's settings for that built into the Meraki switching platforms. We also support WMM on the wireless side, and on the wide area network, our intelligent WAN functionality that Joe touched upon is going to enable you to dynamically alter the forwarding path for your voice traffic based on the quality of experience. It's actually a measure of the mean opinion score whilst the call is in progress, so that we can ensure that the users of these devices are getting the best possible experience over the wide area network. We had a couple of questions about service provider as well here, and this is another component for us to consider. We want our customers to have a fantastic experience, and voice over IP is, as we all know, potentially challenging when it comes to congested networks. And the best, most widely known congested network in the entire world, of course, is the internet. So as soon as we start traversing IP voice over longer and longer distances, the chances of a poorly configured network with no quality of service starts to increase. And so we need to make sure that we're working with service providers who take this stuff seriously and therefore pass on to the end user the best possible experience. It also gives our customers a support route that they can take, both here with Meraki if there are any problems with the technology that relates to Meraki implementation, but also with the service provider. And that's just one call to Meraki support, and we'll make sure that that call is handled in the appropriate manner. There was another question around importing numbers. It's great. We've seen so many questions about the phone. It is a very exciting new product for sure. Yes, absolutely, we can port numbers in. So on IntelliPeer, which is our launch partner for Meraki MC, does provide that functionality, so you can work directly with them. There was another question about directories, and so there's a couple of options you have here. Obviously, you can tap things in manually if you need to, but you can also upload a CSV file containing all of your users and any existing numbers that they already have. You can also integrate, so a lot of the smaller companies that we work with use Google Apps nowadays, and so Google Apps is really nice for implementing via API. So what we've done here is build an implementation enabling us to integrate with the Google directory. So, for example, people's contact details and also pictures also get synced into the Meraki experience. So those pictures, for example, will appear on the phone when a call is received. So that's just a really nice touch. Remember, we are, for the first time, putting a device on regular users' desks, so we do want to make sure that their experience is as smooth as possible. Okay, just scanning down some of the questions. There was a question we had around the MR52. So that was one of the new APs that Matt talked about during his session earlier. So MR52 and 53 both share identical components from a radio perspective. So they're both really absolutely best in class. I mean, they're right up there with the very best APs that money can buy. But they also, of course, benefit from Meraki Cloud Management. The difference between the two access points is that 52 uses two Ethernet ports which use link aggregation to achieve the level of wired throughput that's required for the end user to get best throughput on the wireless, so that we're not saturating the wired network. The difference with the 53 is it uses a different technology called MultiGigabit, which runs over a single copper cable. So, of course, many implementations we have out there only have a single cable drop to the access point. So 53 is the way to go, but then you will need a multi-gigabit source for that access point. So that's really any switch that supports the N-base-T emerging standard. It's not actually a standard just yet, but getting close to that now. And so there are a number of switches in the Cisco portfolio that take care of this, and of course now the MS350 24X as well. We had a couple of questions come in about getting further details and getting in touch with reps and so on. So the best way always to do this is to take a look at our website. Just go to meraki.cisco.com/contact. You'll find all the details that you need in there to get in touch with us, and of course we'll then get you connected with the right person to talk to. Another question also related to MC. So this is a question we've had many times, of course, and we're delighted to receive, and that's when are we going to be able to receive the MC in our own country? So right now, as I'm not sure if, I can't recall if Paul mentioned this, but MC is only available in the United States, and that is because of that service provider and our desire to get quality of end user experience as high as we possibly can. We are working actively right now with a number of service providers in multiple countries to try to get them lined up to offer this service. So this is something we're very keen to get up and available. We're aware of the demand, so thank you for the ongoing questions on that. Question about whether we support work groups for Meraki MC. So that is a feature which is imminent. So I'm happy to talk about that one. I'm not sure if that counts as roadmap or not. It is very close to being released, and so just stay tuned for that. We'll have an update for you very shortly. Questions about review of this material, slides, and so on. We are recording this webinar, so we'll be putting that up on YouTube quite possibly later on today. So you'll be able to go back and review this material or share it with others if you wish to do so. Okay, I think it's time to wrap things up now. Looks like we're starting to see some repeat questions coming in. So I'd like to thank you all very much indeed for taking some time out of your day to join us on the quarterly, and I hope you found it a useful experience. It really is something we enjoy putting together for you. It's always a little chaotic in nature just because of the number of people we need to try to get into the room to share all this material with you, but we're really keen to make sure that you're listening to the right people directly. So we'll be back again next quarter with some more updates, and we look forward to speaking to you then. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and bye-bye for now.